Normally I don't like to give a lecture on anything, so I normally just begin by reading some portion of Nanya or some other Bhagavan's writings, just to get the topic of vichara started, and then everyone's free to answer questions. So at any time you can interrupt me with questions, don't hesitate, I'm not here to give a lecture. I didn't bring anything today to read, but this week I wrote a new article which I posted on my blog called Spontaneously and Wordlessly Applying the Clue to Whom, to Me, Who Am I? Which is, that's a clue that Bhagavan gives in Nanya, Who Am I? And in many other places. In the 6th paragraph of Nanya, in one portion he says, if any other thoughts arise, without trying to complete them, one should investigate to whom they arise. However many thoughts arise, what does it matter? If, as soon as any thought arises, if one investigates to whom it has occurred, it will become clear that it's to me. If one thus inquires, who am I, the mind will return to its birthplace, that's its source. That's obviously the real I am. And the thought which had risen will subside. If one goes on and on practicing in this way, the strength of the mind, the power of the mind to abide firmly in its source will increase. There he gives in a nutshell how we should respond to any thought. And when Bhagavan talks of thoughts, he uses the word thought in a very broad sense to mean any type of mental phenomena, not just one particular type of mental phenomena. So all thoughts, ideas, feelings, emotions, memories, expectations, hopes, desires, everything according to Bhagavan is thoughts. Even the whole world according to Bhagavan is nothing but thoughts. When thoughts appear, the world appears, as in waking and dream. In sleep, where thoughts disappear, world also disappears. So the world is nothing but an expansion of the mind. It's just a mental projection. It's what we call the world is actually what we are experiencing is a series of mental images or impressions, sights, sounds, tastes, tactile feelings and smells. That's all the world is made up of, as far as our experience is concerned. We imagine all these sensations, all these perceptual experiences correspond to some world outside, which Bhagavan said there's no basis in our experience for that. It's just like in dream, when we're experiencing a dream, it appears that the world outside is real, but the world that seems to be outside is real, but it's actually just a mental projection. Source of what we experience now in the waking state is a mental projection. So according to Bhagavan, anything that we experience other than I is a thought. So when he says, if any thought arises, he means if whatever experience we undergo, how we should respond to it. For no experience can arise without an I there to experience it. So whatever thought arises, a very simple way to turn our attention away from the thought back towards the I that is thinking it, or the I that is experiencing it, is to investigate to whom it has occurred. The word one uses in Tamil for investigate is vichari, which is the verb form of the word vichara, which probably all of us are familiar with. But unfortunately, in most English books, it's translated as inquire. Investigate or examine or scrutinize is actually closer to the meaning of the word in Sanskrit. But insofar as inquire means investigate, it does mean inquire. But unfortunately, inquire also has a connotation of meaning to question, to actually put a question. If you ask about someone's health, you say you're inquiring about their health. But it's not in that sense that Bhagavan is using the word vichara. It's not about asking questions. It's about investigating. And there's a vast difference between investigating who am I and asking the question who am I. Because when we ask a question, even if we do it mentally, it involves words and it involves thoughts. Whereas investigating who am I simply involves turning our attention towards the I to experience what it really is. Who am I? That's what Bhagavan means by vichara. It's that turning of our attention. So when he gives this clue, to whom, to me, who am I? But to whom, to me, that portion represents the turning of our attention away from thoughts towards the I that is experiencing them. And the who am I portion means once we turn, remain turned, don't turn back again. So this simple formula, or whatever we choose to call it, a clue that Bhagavan has given us, to whom, to me, who am I? This is a priceless clue, because whatever we may experience, because I is there to experience it, if we investigate whenever any experience arises, to whom is this experience, or who is experiencing this? Our attention at once goes back to I, to me, to the me who's experiencing it. And if we remain with our attention on that I, that is the correct practice of vichara. Later on in Who Am I, Bhagavan defines vichara, but the name vichara refers only to keeping the mind in self, basically is what he's saying. So that keeping the mind, that means the power of attention, keeping it in self or on self, whichever way. In Tamil they say in self, in English we more naturally say on self. You keep your attention on something. So keeping our attention on self, that's on I am or I or whatever you want to say, that is all there is to vichara. And this can be we don't have to be sitting with eyes closed to do this, because now we're sitting with our eyes open. We're listening to some words being spoken. There is an I that is experiencing all this. Whatever if we're out on the street walking, whatever, and we're in our office working, whatever type of experience we're undergoing, there's always that I there. So no matter what we're experiencing, we always have that option to turn our attention back to I. And why Bhagavan was so insistent that whatever experience comes, we should turn our attention back to I, because our power of attention is a very, very powerful thing. When we direct our attention towards thoughts or experiences, anything other than I, those things are nourished. The mind is nourished by the attention we give to it. And the more we attend to the mind and its thoughts, the more strength we are giving it. And when we attend to anything other than I, we experience that thing. And as a result of experiencing things other than I, things that seem to be other than I, we're actually perpetuating the feeling that I am a separate being, I am this person. Whatever, I am Michael, I am whatever, we all have our own name, but I mean, essentially we're all feeling the same thing, I am this person. That feeling is a wrong knowledge of ourselves, and that is perpetuated by our attending to anything other than I. So attending any thought or any experience that we attend to is nourished by our attending to it. But this I that is attending is quite different to all other things. Whereas other things are nourished and flourish when we attend to them, when we attend to this I means the ego or the mind that is attending, it can flourish only by attending to things other than itself. When it turns its attention towards itself, because it has no real existence of its own, it begins to subside and to dissolve in its source, which is the real I. So the more we keep our attention on I, the more this false experience that we have of ourselves, that I am this person, the more that will dissolve. That's why in one place in Who Am I, he says, if one holds firmly on to self-remembrance till self is attained, that alone is sufficient. So all we need to do is to keep our attention on I. Whether we call it self-remembrance or self-attentiveness or self-inquiry, there's so many terms Bhagavan has used, but they all essentially mean the same. Keeping our attention on I, diverting our attention away from all the other things that are constantly distracting it, and turning it back to the I. That is the sum and substance of what Bhagavan has taught us. And this clue he's given us, to whom, to me, who am I, is a very precious clue, because no matter what we're experiencing, this is like a powerful weapon he has given us. At any moment, we can turn our attention back to the I who is experiencing it. We don't have to repeat the words, to whom, to me, who am I. These words are giving us a clue. What Bhagavan is telling us through these words, at any time, we can turn our attention back to I. Because no matter what we may be experiencing, whether it's the most pleasurable experience in the world or the most miserable experience in the world, nothing can be experienced without the I to experience it. So if we have a great bereavement in our life, at that time, when we are unable to bear the pain, we are free to turn our attention back to I, and thereby to let go of the pain. So also we should respond in the same way both to pleasure and to pain, because they're both pleasure and pain are both distractions, distracting our attention away from what we really are. So that's, some of you may, if you have access to the internet, you may be interested to read that article, because I've given quite a lengthy discussion about the whole topic, so you may find it interesting, but I think for the moment that's a sort of summary of what I say there. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
I wanted to ask about silence.
Yes.
Is that a projection of the source or of our minds, and how are we to experience that?
The real silence, the silence that Bhagavan talks about, is what we really are. The mind, we can say the mind is noise. All thoughts are noise. Where all that noise subsides, what remains is silence, which is what really is. So silence is nothing other than I am. When we drop all the things that we superimpose upon I, this feeling I am a person, I am this mind, I am thinking, I am sitting, I am doing, I am this, I am that. Drop everything other than I am. Take the I am alone, that is silence. Everything else is noise.
But sometimes that tends to magnify if, for example, there is a source. Does the silence also come from the source? As in,
the silence is the source. When we subside in the source, we experience the silence. The silence is always there. The silence is always what we really are. But because we rise as a seemingly separate entity to experience so many other things, the silence seems to be obscured by noise. But this noise is all unreal. What is real is only the silence. And Bhagavan said that Bhagavan has given us teachings in words, but these words can never, by words, the truth cannot be experienced. Words are just pointing us, all Bhagavan's teachings is just pointing in one direction. Turn your attention towards I. If you turn your attention towards I, the mind will subside. In the silence that remains, everything will be revealed. So that silence is the real teaching. The words are just pointing us in the direction where we have to go in order to experience Bhagavan's real teachings, which is only silence.
But there is also someone experiencing the silence.
No. So long as there's someone, the silence is not real silence. It's only a relative silence. The absolute silence Bhagavan is talking about is where that someone has disappeared. Because that someone is the first noise, the root of all other noises. That's why the more we turn our attention towards the I, the more we will dissolve in that. So the only practice Bhagavan has asked us to do is to turn our attention towards I as much as possible. Now, because we feel we have a life in this world, we have a family, we have our responsibilities, we've got to provide food for ourselves, we need shelter, we need clothing, all these things. These seem to put demands on our attention. So we cannot give our undivided attention to I. That's what it seems to us now, because we seem to be a person. But even in the midst of all these activities, none of these activities that we do to sustain this body and mind can be done without, it can be experienced without an I. So even in the midst of all our other activities, we can be giving as much attention as possible to I. In the course of a day, how many millions of thoughts we think each day? How many of those thoughts are really necessary? Maybe a few hundred are necessary actually to get us through the day, to do all the things that we have to do. But maybe 1% of all the thoughts we think in a day are actually necessary. So instead of, if we start, if we take more and more interest in experiencing I alone, instead of thinking so many unnecessary thoughts, we'll be keeping our attention on I. And maybe a little, 1 or 2% we give attention to other things, which is all that's actually needed. Okay, we're not able to achieve that when we start off. This seems like a huge ambition to us when we start off. But Bhagavan said, the more we try to attend to I, the more this, everything else will dissolve. And eventually, we will, our power of attention will become so refined, so clear, that we'll be able to experience ourselves as we really are. And then everything else is finished, obliterated, never actually existed. All this seems to exist, but according to Bhagavan, all this seems to exist only in the view of the mind. If we investigate this mind, Bhagavan says, we'll find there's no such thing as mind at all. In verse 17 of Upadesha Undya, Upadesha Saram, Bhagavan says, Manamena Mondrile, there's no such thing as mind at all. But in order to experience that, we have to investigate this mind. Investigating mind means investigating the I. Because in the next verse he says, the mind is only thoughts. Of all thoughts, the root thought, the first thought, is I, the thought called I. Therefore the mind in essence is only this I. So when he says we have to investigate the mind, we have to investigate this I. To investigate this I, the mind will dissolve, ego will dissolve, all will disappear. I mean, when the ego, which is, or mind, which is the root, disappears, everything else disappears, and then what remains, that is what is real. That is what we really are. That is silence. So whatever silence the mind experiences is only a relative silence. The silence Bhagavan asks us to experience is the absolute silence, which we can experience only when this mind itself is out of the picture.
Are there any stages in self-enquiry? Because in the case of Annamalai Swami, Bhagavan said that it focus on the self.
Yes. That's what he said. That's the essence of Bhagavan teaching, focus on the self. Since self is one, there can be no, it is akhanda, it's undivided. So there can be no stages. It's just we have to go deeper, we say deeper and deeper because we're using the language of duality. We can't express these ideas without using words which are, are suitable for explaining duality, not for explaining non-duality. So we have to, the words we cannot convey it adequately in words, but when we say deeper and deeper, it doesn't mean there are deeper and deeper stages. It shouldn't be understood literally. It means dissolve more and more and more. So there are no stages. There's only one reality. We need to experience that. And even now, there is never a time when we are not experiencing ourselves. The problem is now, we're experiencing ourselves and what seem to be other things. If we keep our attention more and more on what we really are, the other things will dissolve and drop off. So Bhagavan said, when people ask Bhagavan how to realize self, he said self is already real. You don't need to realize it. The problem is you've realized all these unreal things. What you need to do is to unrealize all the unreal, and what is real alone will remain. The only way to unrealize all the unreal, the root of all unreal things, is this unreal ego. To dissolve this unreal ego, which is a false knowledge of what we are, a wrong knowledge of what we are, we need the correct knowledge of what we are. We need to experience ourselves as we really are. So this is not that we're not learning anything new. Bhagavan used to say, it's not. This isn't. There's no learning in this path. This is a path of unlearning. We've learned all that we've learned is false. We need to unlearn everything, including the idea that I am a person. I am something, some separate, limited thing. We are actually the infinite reality, which alone is, which is undivided. Yes?
Would you say what you just said?
Yes.
Would that be the same as preserving the Dharma? How would you preserve the Dharma by looking for it within you?
Dharma means what, it comes from the root dru. Dru means to hold. So what holds together, what holds everything together, that is Dharma. So what holds everything together, it's I. What is the one connection, the one thing that connects all the many experiences we have in our life? What is the one thing which is unchanging, constant throughout?
Yeah, it's
50, 60 years ago, we were little children.
Yeah.
Now we are old, body has changed, the world around us has changed. But what is there's only one thing that has remained constant in all that, and that is I. So that is what is holding all these diverse experiences are held together. Bhagavan says in Atma-vichara, the thought, I am this body, is the thread which holds together all the thoughts. So, and what is the essence of that thought, I am a body? It's the I am. So the I am is actually what is holding everything together. So that is the Dharma. The only real Dharma is I am. That is Swadharma.
So to preserve the Dharma, as an individual, look for a self within yourself. That's preserving the Dharma.
Yes. And everyone has to do their own Swadharma. In Gita it is said it's better to perish doing your own Dharma than to thrive doing someone else's Dharma. We, all our life, we've been doing someone else's Dharma. We've been doing the Dharma of this person we take ourselves to be. This is not our Dharma. Our Dharma is to be. Just to be I. To be the mere I. So hold on to the I and you're holding on to Dharma. Let go of I, hold on to anything else, you're letting go of Dharma.
So the interpretation of it, when people turn around and say, to defend the Dharma, you have to defend it with your life, does not mean warfare, does it?
No, it doesn't. Well, we have to, if warfare is necessary, we need to do warfare on this ego. The way to do warfare on the ego is simply to look at it carefully, because it's not real. It seems to be real so long as we look at other things. If we turn around and look at it, it itself, Kedna lotum piticum, Bhagavan says in Urutanaptu, verse 25. If sought for, it takes flight. Because it has no, it's Uruvatrapeya Hande, he says. It's a formless phantom ego. It has no real existence of its own. So if we want to declare war on this ego, just look at it.
So it's initially, it is a personal battle.
Hmm?
It's a personal
It's
battle.
a personal battle, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now a Dharma is thriving in the world because the Dharma is thriving in our heart, because we are attending to things other than I. If we want to restore Dharma in this world, cling to I. Then we'll restore Dharma in our heart, and what is in our heart we'll see everywhere. Oh yes, sorry.
Hi, Michael. When I was walking up here, I was reflecting on the infirmities of getting older and the difficulties.
Yes.
The body started to have problems.
Yeah.
But I was also at the same time that there's an element inside that one, that sort of reflecting quality of freshness, which
Yes.
has never changed.
Yes.
It was like that when I was 3 years old. There's that quality which is
Yes,
there.
exactly.
The two exist side by side.
Yeah.
Very often the aging man pushes forward and gets in the way. I was wondering that quiet, almost silent, ageless quality, is that the original I? Is that the finest aspect of the ego? Or how would you see that?
Bhagavan said in a battlefield, every soldier will feel, I'm not going to die now. Maybe tomorrow, but not now. No soldier, whatever great danger their life is in, they don't think they're going to die now. It's very difficult for us really well, frankly, most of us don't take death seriously. We live our life without taking. Why we don't take death seriously? Even when we're on our deathbed, we still won't be taking it seriously. We still will feel, I'm not going to die now. I've got a little more time. That is because, Bhagavan said this is a very clear sign, because we are deathless, we never really feel that we're going to die. So even when our life is in the greatest danger, we feel we're going to survive.
And that is the immortal part of ourselves?
Yes, the immortal part of ourselves, we call it a part, but that is what we really are. It's not really a part. It seems to be a part when we talk, when now we feel, I am Sean. Everything that belongs to Sean is the unreal part. So there seem to be parts, but if you experience the I, if you experience the I in the I am Sean, as it really is, then you'll find there are no parts. It's partless. That alone is.
So the Sean that is Sean of Sean is the I.
Exactly. Perfect. Yes. Or rather, the I that is Sean of Sean is the real I.
And then quality of Sean is there.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
How can we become more earnest in the search for the I?
That is the big question. Why, what Bhagavan has given us is something so simple. Simply turn our attention towards I, and we can experience it as it really is. Why we don't experience it as it really is, because we're lacking in earnestness. We have too much love to experience other things, so we're not yet ready to experience I alone. Because we cannot experience ourselves as we really are and experience anything else along with it. It's this or that. We have to make the choice. And we are all, every moment of our life, we are choosing to experience other things rather than experiencing I alone. So this is where bhakti comes in. The love we have to experience I alone, that is the real bhakti according to Bhagavan. That is swatma bhakti. So how to get that, how to cultivate that, only way is to practice what Bhagavan has taught us. Practice, the more we practice turning our attention towards I, the more we will cultivate that love. The bhakti will be increased, and so will the vairagya. The vairagya is the lack of any desire to experience anything other than I. So they're just two sides of the same coin, bhakti and vairagya. Both will be increased the more we attend to I. Because the more we attend to I, the less, as I was saying earlier, our power of attention is a very, very powerful thing. By the power of attention, we have created this whole vast universe. What is the supreme power in this universe is attention. The attention which each one of us has is what has created this world. So by attending to things other than ourselves, the world thrives. The world is nourished, the mind is nourished. If we turn our attention back towards I, deprived of the water of our attention, all thoughts, all desires, everything will dry up and wither away, lose its strength. And the love to remain attending only to I, that will increase. So it seems difficult to us, but there's no other way. And it's difficult only because we don't want it. So how to increase the earnestness? By trying. The very fact that we are trying for that is itself, at least 1% of earnestness is there, has to be there for us even to try a little. So it's going to be a snowballing process. The more we let that snowball roll and roll and roll, the bigger and bigger it becomes, and the greater and greater its momentum. So we may be able to practice only just 1% of the time in the day we may be attending to I. 99% of the time we're attending to other things. It doesn't matter. Let's cling to that 1%. Slowly, if we do this with more and more love, that 1% will become 2%, 3%, 4%, until our whole life will be swallowed by this. Sadhu Mufti used to say, we should allow the camel's nose into the tent. That's referring to a Sufi story, but an Arab was traveling through the desert with his camel, and at night they stopped and he put up his little tent, and his tent is only big enough to hold him, and the camel sleeps outside. And the desert is very, very hot in the daytime, but bitterly cold at night. So he snuggled up inside his little tent and fell asleep. And after some time, he found the camel had put its nose in the tent to keep at least its nose warm. So he thought, okay, poor animal, it's carrying me all day, let its nose be warm. And when he next woke up, his nose was inside, and also 2 feet were inside. The next time, 4 feet were inside. And by the time he woke up in the morning, he was outside, and the whole the camel. So we should allow the camel's nose into the tent. I mean, just allow a little bit of self-attentiveness into your life, and it will do its work. Every time we turn our attention to I, we're opening our heart to Bhagavan. Every time we turn our attention towards anything other than I, we're closing our heart towards Bhagavan, to Bhagavan. So if we want Bhagavan to enter and occupy our whole heart, we must try more and more to attend to I. There's no other way.
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering, this, thanks, because I've not heard the inquiry being called investigation, and that does seem a much better way of putting it, and attention. It sounds to me that what you're saying, what Bhagavan was saying, it sounds, and I was going to ask, is it the same, to all intents and purposes, as what Nisargadatta Maharaj's main teaching was, is that you should focus on the sense of I am? Is that effectively the same as self-inquiry?
Well, I don't know so much about Nisargadatta. I've heard different things about his teachings, and I did at one time read a little bit of that book, I Am That, the first book that was brought out by Maurice Krigman.
Yeah.
If Nisargadatta is just saying, attend to I, that's exactly the same as Bhagavan, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. That.
Yeah. That's all there is to it. I mean, at every moment of our life, well, most of the time we're spending attending to other things. I is always there in the background. We are never totally without self-attention, because you cannot experience anything without at least some degree of attention to it. So we are never totally devoid of self-awareness. We cannot experience anything else without experiencing ourselves as the experiencer of that thing. But most of our attention is directed towards other things most of the time. This is the cause of all our problems, according to Bhagavan. So the only practice is to turn our attention more and more towards I. Turn back towards I and hold on to I as firmly as you can. That's all there is to it. Very, very simple. But as she rightly said, it's the earnestness which we're lacking. The only way to get that earnestness is to practice, to try it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Would you be able to say something about the heart centre, please? About,
That's what we've been talking about all along. The heart centre is I. It's not a place in the body. There was some, among Bhagavan's devotees, there were some people who were not ready to accept his real teaching. They were people who had practiced yoga and all these things. And they had other aims. Their aim wasn't to experience who they really were. They were a strange group of people. They wanted to acquire cities, to have powers, because they had an idea. Okay, at that time in the world, there was a great injustice, as there always is. There's never a time when there isn't injustice. In those days, the British occupied India and unrighteously were exploiting India. So there was a strong nationalist movement in those days. And this group of devotees, led by Kaviraganda, their aim was to drive the British out of India. And they thought the way to do that, in the Puranas, and they talk about the power of the great Vedic rishis, who had all this mantra shakti. So they thought that by mantra shakti they could acquire cities, they could drive the British out of India, they could re-establish the ancient Vedic Dharma. Even their plans went so far as they wanted to conquer the whole world, to establish, it sounds fantastic, but they really believed this. They had a plan. They wanted to make the capital of the whole world as Tiruvannamalai, build a city in the shape of a Sri Chakra around Arunachala. Bhagavan would be the emperor. And they really believed all this. Bhagavan would be the emperor, and they would administer it. And they had even decided who was going to be the governor of America, who was going to be governor of Europe, who was going to be governor. They had all their plans. So these people were not ready to dissolve their ego. Bhagavan used to say to them, God has created the world, he knows how to take care of it, leave it to him. But they weren't ready to do that. So they wanted to acquire power and everything. They were always trying to get Bhagavan to approve of their aims, which Bhagavan was never ready to do. But because of their interest in all this mantra shakti and different types of yoga and all these ways of acquiring power, they had all sorts of ideas. And when Bhagavan used to talk about heart, they said, where in the body is heart? Bhagavan said, heart is self. Heart is what you really are. It's not a place in the body. It is what really is. But they said, but is this heart, is it the same as the Anahata Chakra, or is it the same as the Sahasrara? For these people who weren't ready to see beyond the body, Bhagavan came down to their level and said, relative to the body, the heart is 2 digits to the right from the center of the chest. That is because if supposing you're walking along the street and suddenly a car honks its horn just behind you, you get a shock. If you observe at that time, you'll find it coming from here. All emotion, everything relative to body, it's all centered here. So Bhagavan said that is the center of it. Is when we wake up in the morning, we project this whole world. How this projection starts, relative to the body, the eye rises from here, rises up to the brain, spreads throughout the body, then through the body we experience the world. But this is only relative to the body. The body itself, according to Bhagavan, is unreal. So how can a place 2 digits to the right from the center of the chest be real? Once Suri Nagama recorded one thing. Once she was in Bhagavan's presence and some learned pundits were there, and they were talking with Bhagavan about all the chakras and the nadis and all these things. And she was hearing all that Bhagavan was saying to them, and she didn't understand anything, so she felt much dejected. How am I to learn all these things? And Bhagavan is talking about these things as if they're so important. So she waited till those people went, and she said, Bhagavan, will you please teach me about all these things? I don't understand anything about any of these chakras or anything. Bhagavan said, why would you want to know all these things? And she said, because Bhagavan, you were talking with these people about it. Bhagavan said, they were asking me, they're only interested in that, they're not interested in knowing who they are. So I was answering according to what they were interested in. But haven't I told you so many times that all these things are just imagination? And she said, well, Bhagavan, it's all imagination. Bhagavan said, when the body itself is an imagination, what else will all these chakras and nadis and everything be? It's all imagination. For people who came to Bhagavan, wanting what Bhagavan wanted to give them, Bhagavan told only about knowing I. There's nothing else we need know. For people who had other aims, other ambitions, other interests, Bhagavan tried to bring them to his path. When he found they weren't willing to come, he would answer according to their, like when Bhagavan was living on the hill, children from the town at the time of Deepawali, they used to bring their fireworks up to play with Bhagavan. They were very dedicated to Bhagavan. So Bhagavan would play fireworks with them. Are we then to say, Bhagavan, because Bhagavan played fireworks with his children, we should all play fireworks? It's according to Bhagavan responds to each person at their own level. So people who are interested in, who are not at all interested in knowing I, interested in other things, Bhagavan, like he plays with the children fireworks, he plays with them, talks to them about their nadis and chakras and all these things. But that we shouldn't take everything that Bhagavan has said to be his real teachings, because he says according to the need, people's aspirations, interests, and everything.
Where would meditation sit within this context?
Meditation means thinking. We're meditating all day on the world, on things other than I. There are two types of when we meditate, we have an option. Either we attend to I, or we attend to something other than I. What most people call meditation is meditating on something other than I. Meditating on a light, or meditating on some point in the body, some chakra, or meditating on a God who we imagine is someone other than us, on some nama rupa, or some mantra. All these things are other than I. This is the most. If you do any type of meditation with genuine love for God and without any expectation, the most you can achieve from that is purification of mind. Like as Bhagavan says in verse 3 of Upadeshondya, well, in verse 2 of Upadeshondya, he says, the fruit of karma having passed away remains a seed and casts one into the ocean of action. Therefore action cannot give liberation. In Tamil he says, Gati Nirod, in Tamil he says, Vidu Tarile Undipara. It will not give liberation. In Sanskrit he says it even more firmly. He says, Gati Nirodakam. It will obstruct the liberation. So any action obstructs liberation. But in the next verse he says, action that is done without desire for any personal gain and done with love for God will purify the mind and show the way to liberation. The way to liberation, as Bhagavan has told us so many times, is only vichara. So by doing other types of meditation and things, if it's done with genuine bhakti, without any expectation of worldly gain or any type of gain for oneself, whether in this world or the next world, if it's done just with pure love for God, that will purify the mind and show the way to liberation. In other words, it will give the mind the clarity to understand that vichara is the only way. Anything we do other than vichara is an action of some sort or another. Because supposing we meditate on Rama, we have an image of Rama in our mind, we repeat his name and we think of his form, that is all a mental activity. Our attention is moving away from ourselves towards that image of Rama or towards that name of Rama. So it's an action. But if we do it with genuine love, that will purify the mind and show the way to liberation. In other words, enable the mind to understand that vichara is the only way. But if we do that, if we are meditating on Rama, hoping that Rama is going to bless us and help us to pass our exam or to get a better promotion in our job or something, the meditation we are doing is not with love of Rama, it's with love of promotion which we want. So that's not going to purify the mind. Only if you're doing it because you really love Rama and you want nothing but Rama, if you do it with so much bhakti, that will purify the mind. So, Dvaita bhakti, that bhakti for God as if He's something other than ourselves, that can purify the mind if it's with genuine love. But it's not the meditation which is purifying the mind, it's the love which is purifying the mind. What I just said now is verses 2 and 3 of Upadeshundya. Bhagavan then talks about the different types of karma you can do, nishkarma karma you can do with love for God. Actions are by body, speech and mind. So action by body is puja, worshipping God. By speech it's japa. By mind it's meditation. And then he says in verse 7, the uninterrupted meditation is better than interrupted meditation. For obvious reasons. But then the most important, where the Bhagavan makes the important switch is in verse 8. He says, rather than anya bhava, that meditating on God as if He's someone other than us, ananya bhava, in which He's experienced as I, that is the most purifying of all. That is the best of all meditations and the best of all karamas. In fact, it's not a karma because it's the end of all karma. So that is the most perfect bhakti is when we take God to be not other than I. In other words, when we meditate on I alone. If we meditate on anything other than I, that is anya bhakti. If we meditate on I alone, that is ananya bhakti.
Form of mantra or as a...
No, it's not a mantra, because a mantra is something other than I. So anything, even Bhagavan did say, if you want a mantra, the most powerful of all mantras, and the first name of God is I. So if you want a mantra to repeat I. But why that is effective? Because it's a way of turning our attention back to I. But Bhagavan also said, by repeating I, that can help to turn the attention towards I. But when your attention really turns towards I, the repetition of I will drop off. Because even the repetition of I is a word. That word I is other than I. It's not what we really are. We are not that word I. We are what the word denotes. So what we want to put our attention on is not on the word I, but on what is denoted by that word. So the real meditation is what Bhagavan called Swarupa Dhyana, meditation on self, which is the same as self-inquiry or self-investigation.
In a sense, the logical result of all this is that one would just sort of become completely stupid.
Well,
Would just sort of become,
what is stupidity? To when we have the infinite reality, to take ourselves to be this little finite body, is anything more stupid than that? So we know this is the only way to get rid of this stupidity is to know what we really are.
Yes. That was a somewhat inappropriate question.
No, well, it is.
But you, excuse me, but you saw your body language showed something else. You said stupid, but actually, it seems like you meant something being completely relaxed.
Yes.
This is how it looked like. You said stupid, but you signified relaxedness.
Well, I mean, a complete sort of vacancy. One would just sort of become, be like this all the time.
That's the body you're talking about, but we're not talking about the body, we're talking about the eye.
Yeah. Well, the trouble is, when the body is in movement, I mean, that implies thought. And there has to be thought all the time. And the question is how to sort of integrate this thought into...
Well, that's exactly what Bhagavan said. Whatever thought arises, it doesn't matter how many thoughts arise, there's always an eye there to experience it. So whatever thought you experience, we always are free to turn our attention back towards the eye. But eye is never absent.
Yeah.
So that's what Bhagavan means by this clue, to whom, to me, who am I?
Yeah.
We should be constantly turning our attention away from the thoughts towards the eye who thinks from.
Right.
If we do that, okay, certainly so long as this body and world appear to us to be real, a certain amount of thought is necessary to carry on our life. But what percentage of your thoughts that you think every day would you say are really necessary?
Very few.
Very few.
Very small percentage, yes.
So all the other thoughts, the unnecessary thoughts that we attend to, we are scattering our attention unnecessarily on other thoughts. We are thereby becoming weak and making the thought strong.
I understand.
So if we could replace every unnecessary thought with self-attentiveness, 99% of our attention would be on self.
Yes.
And the remaining 1% would very quickly dissolve and disappear.
That's right. You said at an earlier point in what you were saying that there's no point in making a distinction between thoughts. You're either thinking or you're not thinking. I mean,
Yes.
Any thought which is apart from thought of the I is a thought, and therefore not
Yes.
I. Thoughts are actually different in their potency and their ability to take you away from the I.
Yes.
And if you're suffering extreme pain, for
Yes.
example, if in the war you were caught and you were tortured and so when you were kept in a state of constant, unremitting pain, I mean, what are you to do then? I mean, that's...
Okay, so supposing we don't know anything about Bhagavan's path, we've never heard this idea. Yes, ultimately we all love ourselves, but because we experience ourselves as something that we are not, we love ourselves in the wrong way. We are loving the wrong self. Because you feel I am Alistair, you love Alistair. You love Alistair more than you love Michael. If you had to choose between the two, Michael may be a friend of yours, but you would choose Alistair every day, wouldn't you?
I can't even be sure of that. Yeah. Yes, I understand.
Whenever Bhagavan was asked whether he belonged to Atma-vichara Vedanta school,
Yes.
he said he did not belong to any specific school.
Yes.
And he also said that all paths are good and all paths ultimately lead to self-inquiry. And he never criticized anybody doing any other sort of spiritual practice. So was it really to avoid an argument or he really endorsed other paths as well?
Sometimes Bhagavan did seem to say all paths are good. That was, as I said earlier, it's according to people's aspirations. Bhagavan says according to some people are not ready to let go of their japa or their dhyana or whatever other practices they're doing, Bhagavan is not going to force anyone to do something that they don't want to do. Because he knows, supposing he said to everyone, you have to do self-inquiry, what's the use of it? They're not going to do self-inquiry because they don't want to. So he encourages each person to go in their own way. But people wrongly misinterpret that and say, oh, Bhagavan said to this person, yes, japa is good. So therefore Bhagavan also taught japa. He didn't only teach self-inquiry. That is a misinterpretation of what Bhagavan has said. Because Bhagavan replies to individuals according to their own needs, their own level of aspiration, we shouldn't take that everything that Bhagavan said to everyone is his teaching. If we did take it in that way, Bhagavan has contradicted himself. If we interpret it that Bhagavan has said all paths are good, all paths will lead to the same goal, that is contradicting what Bhagavan has said in other places. He said in so many places. For instance, in Uludunapadu, he said how else to experience the Lord who shines in the heart, who shines within the mind, giving light to the mind, except by turning the mind within and drowning it in the Lord. There the Lord, the word he uses pati. He uses mati mind, pati Lord. But pati there means self. It means what we really are. So how else to do it? He asked the question. Obvious answer is there's no other way. I mean, that's the obvious implication of the rhetorical question. That's just one example. In so many ways, Bhagavan has made it very, very clear there is no other way other than vichara. So if we say, oh, Bhagavan has said all paths will lead there, yes. If you're doing some kamya upasana, that's worshipping God for some desired end, you'll go on doing that for life after life after life. Sooner or later, you'll get dejected and think, God is so kind to me, giving me whatever I'm asking for. Why am I asking for all these petty things? Surely the giver is greater than the gift. So slowly our kamya bhakti will mature into nishkamya bhakti. Then we'll begin to worship God for his own sake, not for what we can get from him. And then if we continue worshipping him in that way, our mind will be purified more and more and more. Eventually we'll come to the point of understanding, how can I be other than God? If God is so great, if God is everything, if I feel I'm separate from God, am I not belittling God? By feeling myself separate, if God is infinite, nothing can be other than him. If I feel I'm other than him, that is sacrilege. So my very existence as a separate entity is belittling God. So I must surrender myself fully to God. But how to surrender myself? If I don't know what myself is, so slowly, eventually we'll come round to understand that vichara is the only way to surrender ourselves completely to God. And so we'll take to, so all paths do eventually lead to vichara. Even the worst, most evil people in the world, take Hitler for example. In the life he had as Hitler, he did such terrible things, killing so many millions of innocent Jews and handicapped people and anyone who was not perfect in his view. He wanted to eliminate them. Such an evil man. But he's going to take another birth and take another birth. After crores of births, sooner or later, his mind is going to be purified. Sooner or later, Bhagavan says in verse 8 of Aranachashtakam, however high the bird may fly, sooner or later it has to come back to earth to find rest. So even the most evil people will sooner or later, so we can say, even following a path of being a Hitler is eventually going to lead you there. So in that sense, yes, all paths do lead to the same goal, because sooner or later every bird has to come down to the ground. But Bhagavan wouldn't recommend that we all become Hitlers. It's a very roundabout way to get into our goal. So we should understand, we have to understand what Bhagavan said in the context in which he said it. And we have to understand, in order to understand correctly, we have to know what Bhagavan's real teachings are. Bhagavan is, in so many ways, he has insisted that how can you know something without experiencing it? How can you experience something without attending to it? So without attending to I, how can we know what we really are? So it's simple logic is there, that we cannot experience what we really are without vichara. Simple logic is, if someone comes and tells you, oh no, there is some other way, it's like saying, I want to read a book, but I don't want to look at the words that are written in it. The two are incompatible. In order to read a book, you have to look at the words. So also, in order to experience self, you have to look at self. That's all. Vichara means only that, just looking at oneself, tending to oneself. So whatever other path we may follow, sooner or later, everyone has to come back to this path of vichara. And that alone will enable us to experience ourselves as we really are.
When doing vichara, the individual I subsides.
Yes.
And the self arises.
Yes, that's, we can say in poetic language, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
How does one realize that? What happens when one realizes the self? Does one...
Well, firstly, there are not two eyes.
No, yes.
There's only one eye.
Yeah.
When it said a very good analogy is the snake and rope analogy. If you see what you think is a snake in the dark, and you're very frightened of it, Bhagavan will say, look at it very carefully. If you look very carefully at that snake, the snake subsides, it dissolves, and what remains there is a rope. So by your mere looking at it, what seemed to be a snake is transformed into a rope. It's not actually transformed because it was always a rope, but in your view, it becomes transformed. What you were seeing as a snake, you now see as a rope. So also with the eye. If you investigate this, what we now feel as I, what seems to be a small finite I, if we investigate it, we'll find that it's not what it appears to be. It's not a small finite thing. It is the infinite reality.
But the investigator is still there, or does he completely disappear?
How many eyes are there? When I investigate I, it's not one eye investigating another eye. So we have to investigate ourselves. That's why it's called self-investigation. Yes. We're not investigating any I other than ourselves. And then we find that what appeared to be a finite I, an ego, is actually the infinite I. Even now we experience what we really are, but we don't experience it clearly, so we seem to be something that we are not. By attending more and more to I, the clarity with which we experience ourselves increases. And when we experience ourselves with full clarity, even when we're seeing the snake, what we're actually seeing is only a rope. But we superimpose that imagination, it's a snake, on top of it. But even when it seems to us to be a snake, it is actually only a rope. So even now, what we each feel as I, that is the reality. There's not some other I hiding behind it. It is that what we are experiencing as I now is what we are aiming to experience. But by looking carefully at it, all that we imaginarily superimpose upon it, I am Guru Das. That Guru Das bit has to drop off. So the more we attend to I, the more all the upadis, the adjuncts, what we superimpose upon it, all these drop off, and what is really there alone remains. It's actually so simple when we think about the Bhagavan teaching. It is ridiculously simple. We make it look very complicated because our minds are complicated. But actually, it is so simple. There is one I. Everyone experiences that I. But we experience it mixed up with other things. We have a confused experience of what is I. We all know that I am. We don't clearly know what I am. In order to know what I am, we have to look at I, attend to I, dwell upon it more and more and more, go deeper and deeper into it until we experience it as it really is. It's so simple, so logical.
But for whom is it so simple and so logical?
Exactly. For whom? To whom? To me? Who am I?
Alas, I think I've got to draw the first part of our proceedings to
sure.
an end. I've just got to make one or two announcements, which I'll try to get through as quickly as I can.
I was quite taken by Bhagavan's statement, be as you are. In one sense, it's like a paradox that to be as you are, you have to do all this inquiry and to get down to the source of the I.
Yes.
And yet he says, just be as you are.
Well, yes, be as you are is our aim. But now, what makes it necessary for Bhagavan to say, be as you are? Well, obviously we always are as we are. But we now seem to be something that we are not. We now seem to be a person, a body, a mind, etc. This is not what we really are. So long as we feel ourselves to be this person, it seems to us that we are not being as we are. So in order to be as we are, we need to know what we are. So that is what the vichara, the investigation is for. We cannot be as we are without knowing what we really are. So if we investigate this I to find out what it really is, we will find, once we know what it really is, we won't mistake ourselves to be anything that we are not. So we will then experience ourselves as we are. Even now we are as we are, but we seem to be something different.
Yes, that was it.
Yes, it is a paradox. This paradox is called Maya. And Bhagavan often used to say, the meaning of Maya is Ya Ma. Ya means, it's the feminine form of witch, because Maya is generally depicted as a goddess or whatever. Which is not. Ma is a very, in Sanskrit, Na is negative, but Ma is a very emphatic negative. So, she who is not is basically the meaning of Maya. So, this paradox doesn't actually exist, but it seems to exist. So, it will seem to exist so long as it will seem to exist until we experience ourselves as we really are. Once we experience ourselves as we really are, no question about this Maya will arise, because we'll see through Maya, we'll see there's no such thing.
But how do we know we've got there? Because you've never been there before, even though we are there.
What do you mean? Yes, well, it's not that we've never been there before, we've never been away from there before. As Bhagavan said, jnana is not any new knowledge. It is when all the wrong knowledge drops off, what remains is the real knowledge. And then there will be no one to doubt whether we're there or not.
But it's always seen as a journey, and yet we are going back.
It is a journey, but I mean, it is described as a journey, but all this, it's all, any words that are used to describe this are metaphorical. Because it is actually beyond all language. We use language to describe the world, to describe things other than I. But there's no language to describe I, or to describe the journey to reach I. But Bhagavan, through his words, he has pointed the direction. More than that, Nothing more can be said than that. Once someone asked Bhagavan, how to practice this vichara? Bhagavan said, do you need to be shown the way inside your own house? The way need not and cannot be shown by another person. You have to find the way yourself. That is why it's called vichara. Vichara means investigation, finding out. It's a journey of discovery. And when we discover what we have set out to discover, then we will find it was always discovered and there never was any journey. Or never was any person, the person who we now think was making the journey didn't actually exist. It seems paradoxical from our perspective, but once we reach there, all paradoxes will disappear, and that which alone is real alone will remain.
How does one know that they've reached there?
You don't know that. How do you know that you're dead? How do you know? The one who now wants to know wants to be sure. We want to be sure that I will know when I reach there. But we won't reach there. The I that is asking this question will not reach there. That I will dissolve. And what will remain is the real I. And the real I is absolute clarity, absolute certainty. There's no scope for any doubt to arise.
So who are the others that are left when the I dissolves? When the unreal I dissolves?
The others we're talking about, they exist in the view of this unreal I. Do you, when you wake up from a dream, do you worry about all the people left behind in your dream? So it is.
So they would disappear as
Yeah.
The two ladies speaking of this, going between the two, trying to get between the two.
Yeah.
It does not, you don't have to look for anything. That's the conclusion I'm drawing from.
You don't have to look for anything other than yourself. You're looking for it. What we're looking for is what we already experience, which is I. We are looking to experience it with greater degree of clarity. We are not looking for something which is previously unknown. Because if it was previously unknown, the knowledge that comes will also go. What we are looking for is what is already known, but is at the moment seems to be not known clearly. So we're looking to experience what we already experience as I, we want to experience it clearly. So what we're looking for is the clarity of self-experience.
So what we're going to get at, we're already carrying the vasanas.
Yes.
The I is concealed.
The I is never concealed.
On the vasanas supposed
The I is mixed up with other things, but it's never concealed.
So if we get,
It's obscured.
So if we get rid of the load, yes, for want of a better word, the vasanas, we
Yes.
work off the vasanas.
Yes.
The I will just reveal itself. They don't need to look for it.
But how to get rid of a vasanas if you don't look for the I? It reveals itself because you attend to it. Because you cannot experience anything without attending to it. Whatever we experience it because we attend to it. If we want to experience what we really are with full clarity, we have to focus all our attention on I alone. So all there is to vichara, we are learning how to focus our attention on I. Now we all know I, we can all attend to I, but our attention is not sharply focused.
Yeah.
Because our attention, there's a fundamental difference between I and other things. Other things all have features of some sort or another.
Yeah.
You mention anything. You mention an atom. Scientists can tell you some features that the atom has. You mention beautiful music. A musician will be able to describe the features of that music. Everything that we experience, other than I, has features of some sort or another. That is how we distinguish one thing from another. But this I has no features. So because we're always attending to other things, things other than I, which have features, we it's like your eyesight is trained to focus only on nearby objects. You can't see something far away. Or if you're seeing things, actually no, it should be the other way around. Suppose you're always training your eyes to see distant objects. When you try to read something close, you can't see it, it's blurry. Because your eyes are always focused on distant things. Now we are trying to experience this eye, which is something featureless. It requires a very, very subtle power of attention. Our power of attention has become gross because we're always attending to other things which have features. So we're looking for features. This eye has no features. So it's something, the more we try to look at it, it slowly comes into focus. And the more what I really is comes into focus, the more we as a separate entity dissolve and lose ourselves in it.
So the gross part of it,
yes,
for want of a better word, the gross part of it, I won't say neglect it, but don't pay too much attention to it. Look for the eye. Neglect it. Because, yes, we have to neglect it because we have to neglect everything other than I.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
You know, sometimes I always say I have, this kind of spontaneous experience of tremendous joy or
yes.
peace or something.
Yes.
I mean, it goes after a while.
Yes.
Is that connected to...
Yes. Any happiness we experience, happiness is what we really are. There's no happiness other than self. So if we experience a great joy, that is, we are experiencing self. Why we are experiencing self? Because at that time, our mind is relatively subsided. It's not completely subsided. But if it was completely subsided, that we would never lose that joy. The fact it seems to come and seems to go, it's still relative. It's because the mind has partially subsided. Even in supposing you have a great ambition to some very tasty food, you want to enjoy a particular type of tasty food, or somebody want to have a particular type of car, or something, people set their heart on something. When you set your heart on something and you get that thing, at that time you will feel joy, isn't it? How will you feel that joy? Because the desire you have for that thing is a type of mental agitation. When you experience that thing, that mental agitation subsides, so we feel happiness. We wrongly mistake the happiness because I got my super duper car, which I've been wanting for so many years. I think the happiness I experienced at that time, I think that's because of the car. But is there any happiness in a car? It's just a metal object.
No, in the summer.
So even, and I'm just talking now about this is the happiness that we associate with things. Sometimes we, as you say, with no apparent cause, we suddenly feel a joy. That is because at that time our mind has subsided. Just as it subsides when we achieve what we want to, something that we had set our heart upon, when we achieve that, our minds, this is happening throughout the day. There's so many small desires we have. And whenever our desire is fulfilled, we hear some news which is happy news. We feel happy. We think, because of that news, I'm happy. We're not happy because of the news. We're happy because at that time, what was worrying us is no longer worrying us, so our mind subsides temporarily at that time. Every type of happiness, anything we experience, any type of happiness or pleasure or joy we experience in this world, we experience simply because at that moment our mind is subsiding. But we associate that happiness with external things. And so we think, when I eat chocolate, there's happiness in this chocolate. When I eat the chocolate, I experience happiness. So the happiness must be there in the chocolate. How can there be happiness in chocolate? It's just inert matter. The happiness that we experience from anything is happiness which is already within us. Is when the desire that we have for that thing is satisfied, the mind temporarily partially subsides, we feel some joy, some pleasure.
So it's just got to do with the mind.
It's just got to do with the mind.
Getting knocked out. Yeah.
But as you say, sometimes we just experience joy for no reason.
Yeah.
At other times, we may experience for no apparent reason, we just feel miserable. People get depressed. They have no reason for being depressed, they just feel depressed. This is all due to activity of the mind. The more the mind is agitated, the more unhappy we feel. The more it's calm, the more happy we feel. And constantly the degree of agitation in the mind, sometimes it's more, we feel unhappy. Sometimes it's less, we feel happy. So our life is just a mixture of pleasure and pain throughout. But all this is though the happiness comes from within, because we associate it with external things, even the happiness that has no cause, we take it to be something other than I. When you say suddenly experience great joy, because it seems to us that that joy has come and later goes, it seems to us that it's something other than ourselves. If we want to experience that joy permanently, we have to experience what we really are. If we experience what we really are, the mind will subside completely, then we will find we are joy. Then there'll be no coming and going. That joy is ever present. It's not even achieved at the time of jnana. In fact, to say the time of achieving jnana, it seems real from our point of view, but actually there's no time of achieving jnana, because jnana is eternal.
So you say that it's exactly the same thing with happiness, because happiness is eternal. So by
whatever is true of I is true of happiness, because I and happiness are one and the same.
I understand all this with my mind.
Yes.
Then if I try to apply it, then I'm trying to solve the problem with the cause of the problem, which I don't think works. I mean, the mind does not want to dissolve itself, so it may pretend that it's doing it and keep me in a happy illusion, oh, I am getting somewhere, and actually it's making sure that it doesn't go away. So how do you just get beyond the mind?
The mind is with us till the end. The only way to go beyond the mind is to see through it. And the only way to see through it is to see it, to look at it. Looking at it doesn't mean looking at all the other thoughts, because those other thoughts are not the essence of the mind. The other thoughts come and go. But the one thought that is always present is I. So if we look at this I, it will begin to dissolve as a separate entity. So so long as we're following this, so long as we are trying to follow this path, we're all just trying, it seems like an insurmountable obstacle that we are up against. But if we continue looking more and more closely at this I, it will begin dissolving. But we can never be, we can never actually measure our own spiritual progress. We can never say to what extent this I is dissolved, because the more it dissolves, the more painfully aware we become of its existence. That's why the people who experience the greatest spiritual anguish are the people who are closest to the goal. If you read the poetry of great saints, they talk of themselves as lower than the lowest. They really mean it, because that's what they really feel. Sadhguru used to give a nice analogy. If you look at a crescent moon, in the crescent moon, how many craters can you see? You can't see any. If you look at a half moon, you can see the craters, but in the bright half moon you can see the craters, but they're very dim. Only when the moon is full, you see all the craters very clearly. So also, the more our mind dissolves, the more and more it becomes pure and dissolves in the reality, the more and more its shortcomings and its defects become clear to us. So the more we make progress in the spiritual path, the more we will feel the goal is we are not even beginning on the path. It will feel actually like we're going backwards. If we think about how it was when we started on this path, things weren't so bad then, but now, now I'm worse than when I started.
Well, that's not quite true, though.
It seems true to me. I don't know about you.
This is my personal experience is like because you're talking about the dissolving of the mind and how actually the mind can be aware of its own dissolving.
It can't be. Because it still
exactly,
seems to be there.
Yes,
Exactly, yeah.
So,
but as it gets closer and closer to dissolving, it becomes more and more aware of how solid it is.
that's true.
So it seems, as we progress on this path, it seems that we are less and less fit even to begin on this path. So it does seem in a way, I mean, that we are going backwards.
I find that one of the ways you'll know just how powerful it is to let go of the mind is if you meditate and you're supposed to just not think and the thoughts just keep coming.
Yeah.
And you realise that in fact your mind is trying to constantly think, and it's only infrequently that you can completely let go of the thoughts, and that's how I realised how big a hold the mind has.
Why does the mind always want to be thinking? Because when we turn our attention, when we try to meditate on I, when we try to turn our attention towards I, the very existence of the mind is threatened. So it is struggling for its own survival, and it survives by holding on to other thoughts. So it's only by thinking that the mind seems to exist. So the more its existence is threatened by our practicing vichara, the more it tries to throw up the thoughts. It's doing so for its survival, because without clinging to those thoughts, it's going to lose itself.
So would you say that if you meditate more, there's more of a chance of stilling that?
Yes, certainly. What is meditation? Real meditation? I don't know exactly what you mean by meditation.
Just sitting quietly and focusing on the breath and not thinking at all.
The breath is a thought. Body is a thought. Anything other than I is a thought. Even the I that feels I am meditating is a thought. So the only thing that is not a thought is what we really are. The pure I is not a thought, but the impure I that now feels I am meditating, I am thinking, I got distracted. That I. That's why Bhagavan called it the ego. He called it the thought called I, because that is the pure I mixed with other things becomes this thought called I. So when we are meditating, we are not free from thoughts. We are never actually free from thoughts. The only taste we have of freedom from thoughts is when we are fast asleep, not even dreaming. That is real freedom of thoughts. As soon as we wake up or come into a dream state, the first thing that rises is this thought called I. So long as this thought called I is there, other thoughts are there. So in meditation, the quietness we experience in meditation is a relative quietness. It's not absolute quietness. It's not absolute freedom from thoughts. It's a relative, thoughts to some extent are less. But we often, it's a very subtle thing. People think that thoughts are the obstacle, which is true in a sense. But part of the obstacle of thought is our attitude towards them. If we sit down to meditate with the object to get rid of thoughts, we will never get rid of them. Because that very aim, I want to be free of thoughts, is itself a thought. Sadhguru used to say something, a very nice thing. He said, people fight their thoughts. They try to reject thoughts or suppress thoughts. But we shouldn't do that. We should consider thoughts as our friends. They have come here to remind us that we are. Because unless I am, I cannot experience any thought. So any thought that comes, any experience that comes, it has come only to remind me that I am.
Not.
I am, no. So if we take every thought as a reminder, that is putting the clue Bhagavan gave us, to whom, to me, into practice. Every thought that arises, he says, however many thoughts arise, what does it matter? Why does he say that? He says in the next sentence, as soon as any thought arises, if you inquire to whom, it becomes clear to me. So it doesn't matter how many thoughts come, so long as every thought reminds us to turn our attention back to the me who's experiencing it. So our aim in meditation isn't to be free of thoughts. Our aim is to be aware only of I. If we are aware only of I, thoughts will automatically subside. If we think we have to push away the thoughts, the very pushing away of thoughts means we're attending to them, we're feeding them. In order to get rid of thoughts, we have to ignore them. And the only way to ignore them is to attend to the only thing that is not a thought, and that is I. That's the only way to be completely free of thoughts, including the root of all thoughts, which is this thought called I.
Just going back to the point where I think it was the gentleman who asked about how can we view our own progress. Is it not true that you sometimes need a teacher? That's the teacher's role to see how far you have got, or the guru's role.
The guru's role, Bhagavan, you say the real guru is what exists in you as I. That is the only real guru. But because our mind is constantly going outwards, it is necessary for guru to appear in human form in order to tell us, turn within. I am there in you as I. If you want to experience me, experience the I in you. That is the function of guru. The guru's function is to show the way. We then have to follow what the guru says. Guru isn't going to say, oh, you've made so much progress, or you've not made so much progress. That's all. If Guru says you're making very good progress, who is making very good progress? It's the I, which is what we are not. So Guru will never tell us you're making progress or you're not making progress, because if he says that, he will be giving reality to the I which we are trying to investigate and find out that it's unreal. So Guru will never say, a real Guru will never say, he will just say, you are already that, know yourself. For Guru, this idea of spiritual progress is meaningless, because if Bhagavan were to accept that we are making spiritual progress or we're not making spiritual progress, that means he's accepting that we're something other than what we really are. But Bhagavan never sees us. In Bhagavan's view, there are no ajnanis. No one is ignorant of self. That's why Bhagavan didn't go out to give anyone any teaching. Only when people asked him questions, he gave teachings. Otherwise, for him, he sees only self. So there's no one for him to go and say, you're in ignorance, you have to inquire and find out who you are. In his view, we're already that. Because we go to Bhagavan and say, Bhagavan, I'm miserable. How do I find happiness? He says, you are happiness, find yourself. So people have very fanciful idea of what is Guru. First wrong idea we have about Guru is that Guru is a person, is someone other than us. Guru is what we really are. If we want to experience Guru, we have to turn within.
So we're all gurus?
No, there is only one Guru.
Who's that?
Yes. There's no all at all. All is ego. All is an expansion of the ego. Guru is the one.
This recent thing that I had of happiness, all I was doing is I arrived early at a station. I was just standing there, and I knew I was early. It was King's Cross, and I was looking up on the thing for when my train would come, because I was so early.
Yes.
I was just standing there, and suddenly I felt incredibly at peace and happy. So, could it have been that because the thoughts stopped because I was looking at the train?
Well,
it stayed for a while.
There's no obvious cause. Sometimes it happens, the mind just subsides. We can't always give a cause, attribute a cause to it. But it is good you experience that, because that shows you can experience joy with no cause.
Yeah.
If you can experience joy with no cause, the idea that we have that we get happiness from this thing or that thing is wrong. Because we can, there was nothing outside of you that caused that.
No.
So the cause is only within you. So you have to find that cause of happiness within yourself.
And that you do by concentrating on the eye.
Yes.
I find that very complicated.
It's very simple. Nothing. What can be simpler? What can be simpler than eye attending to itself?
But the eye always seems to be. I always think of it as the little eye, the ego. Where does it become?
It doesn't become anything. Even now, what you experience as I, you are that Tattvamasi. Even now, you are Brahman. But what you really are is obscured because you confuse yourself to be a person. So we need to experience ourselves as we really are. In order to experience ourselves as we really are, we need to attend to ourselves. When we try to attend to ourselves, at first our self-attention will be hazy. Because though we know I, it's not very clear to us what is I. So we're trying to, it's like a light being filtered through something. We're trying to find the source of the light, but it's filtered through a hazy mist. So as we follow the light, go deeper and deeper into the mist, we sooner or later will come to the source of the light. Then it will be clear. But so long as we're on the way, because of all the mist around it, we're not able to see we know where the light is, we're going towards it, but we're not able to see it sharply. Our situation is like that. We are attending to self, but still our self-attentiveness is hazy. We're not able to clearly distinguish the light from the mist. Well, the light may be very small, but because of the mist it appears like big, spread out, scattered light. As we go closer and closer to the brightest point, the center of that light, then it will come into, eventually it will come into focus, and we'll see actually it's a very small light and it alone exists.
Can I ask you about Bhagavan's use of the metaphor of the dream, which he talks about in his Who Am I?
Yes.
Essay.
Yes.
Is that a very important thing to grab hold of? He makes the suggestion there.
Yes, well, it is. I wouldn't say it's a metaphor. It's rather what he is saying is what we experience in this waking, what we take to be waking state is actually just another dream. There is no essential difference between our experience in waking and our experience in dream. People imagine all sorts of differences. Or in dream, everything is, things are very fluid, they change. One moment you're talking to a friend in London, and the next moment you'll find you're in some other place and you're talking to someone else. This sort of thing happens in dreams. We can point out, from the perspective of our waking state, differences between waking and dream. But these differences are all qualitative differences. They're differences in the quality of the experience, not in the substance of the experience. What we essentially experience in waking and in dream is the same. In both states, we experience a body as I, and through the five senses of that body we see a world. We meet people, we talk with people, we undergo so many experiences. Just like that, when we wait for, so long as we're experiencing that state, it seems to us to be real. While we're dreaming, supposing we were having this conversation in dream, we would be saying, well, now this is real, but when we're dreaming, it just seems to be real, but this is the real, we're now awake. We assume when we're dreaming that we're awake. And it seems to us at that time to be real. Even if something completely improbable. I know my father passed away some 25, 30 years ago, but I may meet my father in my dream. Though I thought he was dead, that thought may occur to me, but I'm not able to doubt because I'm meeting him and he's talking to me. It seems the fact that he is there talking to me is more real to me than the idea that he has died 30 years ago. So whatever we experience, why the dream appears real, whatever we experience in dream, because we take that dream body to be I. Whatever we take to be I is real, because I is the only reality. So we take the dream body to be I, and so we take the dream body to be real. The dream body is part of the dream world. So if the dream body is real, the world is also real. So we cannot but take the dream to be real so long as we're experiencing it. Some people say, oh, what about lucid dreams? There's something that some psychologists do a lot of research on lucid dream. Lucid dream is supposed to be a dream where you recognize that you're dreaming. But this is just a different type of experience in a dream. But even if in dream the thought occurs to you, oh, I'm dreaming, if suddenly a bus is coming towards you, you jump out of the way. If you really thought you were dreaming, let the bus pass by, it's just a dream object. The thought, even now in the waking state, we can have the thought, oh, this is just a dream. But we shouldn't, thinking this is just a dream, cross over the road in front of the traffic. Yes. So it seems to us, so long as we're dreaming, it seems to us to be real. So long as we're experiencing this waking state, it seems to us to be real. Because we take this body to be I, this body is real. Because this body is real, world is real. We cannot but take it to be real. It seems to us to be real, so long as we're experiencing it. But as soon as we wake up from the dream, we no longer feel it to be real. Because we no longer take that dream body to be I. We then take this body to be I. So from the perspective of waking, the dream appears unreal. From the perspective of the dream, the waking appears unreal. In dream I meet my father, I think, oh, he passed away. Well, obviously he didn't pass away because I'm meeting him now. So what I had experienced in dream, in waking, was that he had passed away 30 years ago, is falsified by my experience in dream. So at that time I believe, I don't say to my father, oh, how can I talk to you, you're dead? Because he'll reply and say, of course I'm not dead, here I am, I'm talking to you. So it's only from the perspective of waking, but the dream appears unreal and waking appears real. The same vice versa. So there's actually no substantial difference between waking and dream. Both, according to Bhagavan, are creations of our own mind. Why this is important? Because so long as we accept that anything other than I is real, our mind won't be after that thing. At least theoretically we have to understand, theoretically, but nothing is real other than I. Only then we will think doing any other type of research, trying to know anything else is useless. See, scientists have done so much research on this world, they developed so many theories about this world. All those theories are assuming that the world exists independent of the mind that is making the research. But if that world is just a dream, all their scientific theories are meaningless. When someone asked Bhagavan about what he thought about Darwin's theory of evolution, Bhagavan said, it is like in a dream, if you see buildings and you begin to speculate who built these buildings and everything, it has no meaning. The buildings don't exist except when you're seeing them. So also this world doesn't exist except when you're seeing it. So to say it was caused by a big bang so many billions of years ago, it's meaningless. It's assumed, we make a basic assumption that there's a world existing out there independent of my experience of it. It was existing long before I was born, it will exist long after I die. If we believe all that, then we'll believe in Big Bang, we'll believe in evolution, or we'll believe in what was said in Genesis, that God created the world in 6 days. So many things we can believe. But all these beliefs are there because of a fundamental belief that the world is real. And the fundamental belief that the world is real is there because of a fundamental belief that I am this body. So, dissolve this wrong belief that I am this body, and all these other beliefs will also be dissolved.
So Bhagavan actually literally means then he's asserting.
It's not a metaphor. He literally said there is no difference between waking and dream. In Who Am I, he said, except that waking is long, has some duration, and dream is momentary. There is no difference between them. He says in Who Am I? But in Guruvachakabai Murugana recorded Bhagavan as saying, even that is not true. That is said from the perspective of a waking state. But waking is long and dream is momentary. There's actually no difference at all.
Yeah. I was going to say, there are kind of fairy tales, and for example, The Wizard of Oz. I know there was a book in which the author portrays this dreamlike reality, and the child wakes up at the end of The Wizard of Oz and says, "Oh, it's only a dream."
Yes.
You know? So, and apparently there are other civilizations which have, like the Red Indians in North America.
Yes.
They say that we come to this world to dream.
Yes.
You know.
Well, I think, this is the basic doubt. Any thinking person must have a doubt. Is this world really anything other than a dream? That doubt is natural to human beings. Most of us put that doubt aside. It's all for fairy tales that the world is only a dream. Actually, we know this world is really here. There are all these problems, and we've got to solve all these problems in the world. There's so much misery. We've got to go out and solve all these injustices, sign so many petitions and everything. We all do it. So long as we take up this body to be the world is real, and we should sign a petition. We don't want other people to suffer. We want to alleviate suffering. That is natural. So long as we're interacting with the world, we have to interact with the world as if it is real. Because the one who is interacting is the body, which itself is part of the world. So we shouldn't start acting in the world as if it's unreal. As I say, we shouldn't just step out in front of the traffic.
No, but we're sort of caught, aren't we? We're sort of in between.
But while we're interacting with the world, we interact with the world as if it is real. But we have to separate ourselves, step back, and at least during the time of vichara, we have to put aside the thought of the world, and all the suffering in the world, all the injustice in the world, and we have to concentrate only on the I. That is the only way to solve all the problems of the world. In dream we see so much suffering. How to alleviate all the suffering we see in dream? The only way is to wake up. So ultimately, it's okay, so long as we are experiencing the world, we sign the petitions, we vote for governments that we think will be fairer to people and won't cause more suffering to people. We do what we can to alleviate suffering or to avoid causing suffering. Yes. But that shouldn't be the whole of our life. We have to separate the outward life. We have responsibility, we have family, we have to provide for our family, we have to take care of our children, so many things. We've got so many responsibilities in the outside life. All these, we do all these in the matter of course. But after all, what is doing all these actions? It's body and mind. We are not this body and mind. So let body and mind do their dharma. We have to separate ourselves and do our dharma, which is to hold on to the I.
Thanks.
So what happens to the I in the deep sleep state?
What we experience in deep sleep is I as it really is. We experience the real I. Nothing happens to the I in sleep, it just is as it is. What happens to the I is when it seems to rise in waking and dream, it then gets mixed up with upadis, with adjuncts. It takes a body to be I. So it's not always the same body. The body it takes to be I in waking is different to the body it takes as I in dream. So both these bodies are mental creations, but it projects this body, takes it to be I, and through the five senses of this body it projects the world. That is, something has happened to I there. Something serious has gone wrong there. But so in dream, all these upadis, everything drops off, and I remains as it really is. But, in sleep. But there's one problem with sleep. Why we go to sleep? We go to sleep because we stop thinking. When we stop thinking, the world ceases to exist. But why do we stop thinking when we fall asleep? Because we are so tired of thinking all through the day, we no longer have the energy to continue thinking, so out of sheer exhaustion we subside in sleep. So we go into sleep without experiencing ourselves as we really are. So from the perspective of our waking mind, dream seems to be a state of darkness. From the perspective of self, sleep, I'm getting confused, sleep and dream. Sleep is a state of perfect self-awareness from the perspective of what we really are. But from the perspective of what we really are, waking and dream are also states of perfect self-awareness. There's no difference between waking, dream and sleep. There is no waking, dream and sleep from the perspective of self. But from the perspective of our waking mind, or dreaming mind, in sleep we go into a state of darkness. It seems to us to be a state of darkness because we go into that state due to exhaustion, not because of clarity of self-awareness. What we need to do now, we need to experience that thought-free state of sleep, but with full clarity of self-awareness. The only way to do this is by vichara, by turning our attention constantly back to I, always trying to focus our attention on I. We will eventually get ourselves into a state which is like sleep, in that it has no, there are no other thoughts, no awareness of anything other than I. But unlike sleep, it's a state of full, perfect clarity of self-awareness. That is the state called jnana. That is our real state, our sahaja sthiti, our natural state, what we really are, even now.
So would it be correct to say the difference between deep sleep and, say, an enlightened state of turiya is that you are aware, whereas in deep sleep you are not aware?
In deep sleep we are aware, but from a perspective, the mind is not destroyed in sleep because we go into sleep without that clarity of self-awareness, without attending to I. We go into sleep through. So it seems to us from the perspective of our waking mind, but we are not aware of anything in sleep. But actually, even in sleep, we are aware of I, without anything else. But it's not sufficient to destroy the mind, because the mind goes undercover, as it were, in sleep. It hides itself in sleep and pops out again in waking dream. So we need to, in order to experience jnana, we need to see through the mind, to dissolve the mind completely. So we mustn't let it escape. Like, many types of meditation. So it's only the ignorant outlook of ajnanis, the people who don't know, experience themselves. The jnani seems to be a body and to have a mind and to be answering questions and everything. Yes, sorry.
I was just going to say,
So have
just
the last question. Yeah.
Well, it's sort of a vague question stroke point, but either Nisargadatta or Bhagavan or both actually said that of the states, the waking state was the lowest state, the dream state was a higher state, the deep sleep was higher than that, and then beyond that.
Well, Nisargadatta may have said that, Bhagavan never said that, because he said waking and dream are one and the same. They're exactly the same.
Yeah.
And really there's no high or low. There's what is real and what is unreal. Waking, dream and sleep are all unreal. What is real is I. The I that experiences the waking, dream and sleep, that is real. But the waking, dream and sleep, what is experienced is unreal. The I that is experiencing is real.
I think on that note we have to close. Sorry.
Can I just say one more thing? Even that is not quite true, because what is experiencing the waking, dream and sleep is not the real I. The essential I-ness in that I is real. Not the person who says, I'm now awake, last night I was sleeping and I had a dream. That I is not real.
Yeah.
But the I within that I, in other words, the essence of that I, the essential I-ness is real.
Yeah.
We finish with our bhajan, if I can only start it.
Let's play.
Where is play?
Don't laugh at him. We are still trying to find where I is.